When my husband lost his job, I took on 3 shifts at the hospital, cooked, cleaned, covered all the bills. One night, I came home early and found my sister sitting on our couch in my pajamas. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "He said you're never home anyway." I looked at him, frozen. He just said, "You act like a martyr." We needed comfort. My mother called me later and said, "Maybe you pushed him to this." I walked away from everything. 9 months later, I got a birth announcement in the mail with no return address, but I recognized the baby's eyes. I met Andrew when I was 22. I was in nursing school, working long shifts at the student clinic, and trying to keep my head above water. He worked nights at a bar just off campus. He was the kind of guy who made you laugh even when you didn't want to. People liked him. He was good at that, being liked. I thought I hit the jackpot. We dated for 2 years before we got married. Nothing fancy. Just a courthouse, a cheap dress, and his sister as a witness. My mom cried a little, said we were too young, but she still came. That was before she decided everything I did was never enough. We moved to Dayton right after I passed my boards. I landed a full-time job at the hospital, ICU night shift. It was hard work, but it paid decent and had benefits. Andrew got a job doing tech support for a small company downtown. It didn't pay much, but it kept him busy. For a while, we were okay. Then, about 1.5 years into the marriage, his company downsized. Andrew came home that day with this dazed look, like someone had punched him in the throat. "I got laid off," he said. I told him it was okay. I hugged him. I told him we'd figure it out. That's what you do when you love someone. You support them. So I picked up an extra shift. Then another. Then I stopped counting. 3 shifts a week turned into double shifts. 12-hour nights, then straight into another hospital for 8 more hours. Sometimes I went 2 or 3 days without sleep. I was exhausted all the time. But I kept doing it. Because someone had to. Andrew stopped looking for jobs after a while. Said he was figuring things out. Started watching YouTube all day. Got into crypto, then dropped it. Talked about a podcast. Bought a microphone he never used. Said he wanted to do consulting even though he didn't know what that meant. I didn't fight him on it. I was too tired. I just kept working. I paid the rent, the electric, the car note, groceries. I came home to a sink full of dishes, clothes on the floor, and a man who acted like he was doing me a favor by being there. But I stayed, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Marriage is hard. People go through things. I thought maybe he just needed time. Then came the night everything fell apart. It was mid-January. Cold as hell. I was scheduled for a double, but halfway through the first shift, a nurse from the day crew offered to cover for me. She said I looked like I hadn't slept in a week. She wasn't wrong. I figured I'd go home, surprise Andrew, maybe finally sleep in my own bed. I remember pulling into the lot behind our apartment and seeing the living room light on. It was almost 3 a.m. I thought maybe he waited up for me. I opened the door and froze. There was someone sitting on the couch. It was my sister, Marlene, wearing my pajamas. The plaid ones with the little drawstring and the bleach stain on the leg. She had her hair pulled back, and her feet were on the coffee table like she lived there. She didn't even look shocked to see me. Just stared straight at me with that flat, cold look. Then she said, "He said you're never home anyway." Like that made it okay. Like that explained everything. I looked past her and saw Andrew, sitting on the other side of the couch. He didn't jump up. Didn't explain. He just stared back at me and said, calm as anything, "You act like a martyr." We needed comfort. That's all he said. Like it was my fault. Like I was the reason they did this. I didn't say a word. I turned around, walked to our bedroom, grabbed my old duffel from the closet, shoved a couple of scrubs and underwear inside, and walked out. That was it. I drove to a hotel and sat in the parking lot until the sun came up. Then I called in and told the hospital I needed a few days. I hadn't taken time off in months. They didn't ask questions. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mom. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask what happened. She just said, "I know you're hurt, but maybe you pushed him to this. You were never home. Maybe he felt abandoned." That's when I realized how little they all thought of me. How easy it was for them to blame me for everything. I blocked everyone. Marlene, my mom, even cousins I hadn't spoken to in years who started sending me messages like I owed them an explanation. I cut ties. No explanations. No fighting. Just silence. I got my own place, a one-bedroom near the hospital. I filed for divorce. No alimony. No legal mess. Just irreconcilable differences. I didn't want anything from him, just freedom. For a while, I thought that was the end. Then, 9 months later, I got a letter. Plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name written neatly in block letters. Inside was a birth announcement. It was baby blue. Tiny ducks. Big bubbly font that said, "He's here," with a name I didn't recognize. There was a photo paperclipped to the card. A baby boy. Swaddled. Sleeping. But when I saw his eyes, my chest locked up. Those were Andrew's eyes. And that nose? That was my sister's. I stared at that photo for a long time. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't crying. I just felt nothing, like something inside me had snapped and gone quiet, like a fuse burned out. I set the photo on the table, picked up the envelope, and checked the postmark. Cincinnati. That's where Marlene lived before she moved in with us just for a while during the pandemic. She'd always hated that I married Andrew. Said he was too soft, that I needed someone who could match my fire. Now she had a baby with him. I didn't know what they expected. Maybe they thought I'd show up, forgive them, play auntie to their kid. Maybe they thought I'd see that baby and melt. But instead, I got quiet. Real quiet. I started keeping notes. Dates. Names. Memories. Screenshots. Anything I could piece together from old texts, calls, Facebook posts. Things I hadn't thought about before. Like the time Andrew got weird when I asked why Marlene's car was in our lot during the day. Or that week she crashed on our couch because her water heater broke. They'd been playing me for a long time. That made me angry, but not loud angry. The kind of angry that sinks into your bones and makes you plan. I didn't want revenge at first. I wanted distance. But then I got a text from my mom. Just a simple line. "You should come meet your nephew." No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an invitation like nothing had happened. I didn't answer. But that's when I made a decision. If they wanted to pretend like nothing happened, fine. I'd give them exactly what they wanted on my terms. I started with Andrew. His name was still on a few of my financial accounts from when we were married. I'd left them alone during the divorce to keep things clean, but now I went in and had them all audited. One account showed a series of odd charges during the time we were still married: hotel rooms, Uber rides, gifts. Stuff I'd never looked at too closely because I was working too much. I compiled it all. Every receipt, every date. I met with a lawyer, just to ask what my options were. Turns out, I had more leverage than I thought. He'd used joint funds to carry on an affair. That opened the door to a potential civil claim. Then I turned to Marlene. I knew she worked at a daycare in Norwood. I called once, asked for her using a fake name, just to make sure she was still there. She was. I didn't do anything right away. I waited. Watched. Then one night, I walked into the hospital for my shift, and one of the ER nurses handed me a folder. "You've got mail again," she said, laughing. It was another envelope. Same handwriting. Another photo. This time, the baby was older, maybe 4 or 5 months. And there was a note. "He deserves to know his family. You don't have to be angry forever." That's when I knew. They weren't just living in their little bubble. They wanted me to be part of it. They wanted to rewrite the story. Like I was the problem for walking away. Like I was selfish. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I took a picture of it with my phone, tucked the original into my locker, and went to work like nothing happened. But inside, I was already planning my next move. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. I got a call from HR at the hospital. "We're doing a routine background update," the woman said. "But something came up we wanted to ask about." My stomach tightened. "What kind of something?" "There's a pending civil inquiry tied to your ex-husband," she said. "Not against you, but your name showed up because the accounts were joint at the time. Just procedural." I thanked her, hung up, and sat there, heart racing. Andrew must have made a move. He probably got wind that I'd spoken to a lawyer. Maybe he saw me digging. Or maybe, more likely, someone told him. I thought about my mother. About how she'd always defended him. About how she'd told me to come meet your nephew. Like she was still playing both sides. I started to feel something I hadn't felt in months. Paranoia. I didn't like it, so I did something I hadn't planned on doing. I called up my cousin Rob. Rob's one of those people who knows people. He does construction work and side hustles. Not always clean, but not the worst guy. He'd always liked me more than the rest of the family, and he hated Marlene. She always acted like her shit didn't stink, he once told me. Like you were the backup daughter. I met him at a diner in West Carrollton. I told him I needed a favor. Not anything illegal. Just information. "I need to know where they live," I said. He didn't ask why. 2 days later, he texted me an address. A small house in Silverton. Rental. Under Marlene's name, not Andrew's. Interesting. I drove by that weekend. Just once. Didn't stop. Didn't park. Just drove. There was a toy truck on the lawn. A tricycle near the steps. A grill in the yard. It looked normal, like any young family's home, but I knew it was all built on lies. That same week, I got another envelope. This one had a photo of the baby being held by Andrew. His arm was around Marlene. Her eyes were locked on the camera. My mother was in the background, smiling. It made me feel sick. That's when I noticed something odd. The baby was wearing a little cardigan. A hand-knit one. Pale green. My grandmother used to make those. Exactly like the one I'd been given when I was a baby. I had stored it in my closet. One of the few things I kept when I moved. But after I saw the photo, I checked my storage bin. It was gone. I started digging. Looked through old texts from before I left. A few stood out. Marlene had asked for my keys because hers weren't working. I gave them to her, never thought twice. She must have made a copy. She'd been in my apartment, stealing from me. Even after I left. That's when I stopped holding back. I filed a formal civil complaint with the evidence I'd collected. The bank charges. The date-stamped hotel receipts. I pushed it forward. I named him directly. The claim was quiet, but real. Andrew got served a few weeks later. Then, the whispering started. A mutual friend from the hospital told me that Andrew had tried applying for a job at a nearby clinic doing admin work. They found the case in his background check. He didn't get the job. Marlene posted a vague rant on Facebook the same week. Something about people trying to destroy what they don't understand. I took a screenshot. Because I wasn't done. Not even close. Things started falling apart for them faster than I expected. 3 weeks after Andrew got served, my cousin Rob sent me a blurry photo from across a parking lot. Andrew, arguing with Marlene near her car. She had the baby in one arm and her other hand was jabbing in his face. He looked wrecked. Hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled. The caption Rob added said, "He's not staying there anymore. Been crashing at his buddy's apartment in Kenwood." I didn't feel bad. I felt justified. Then the daycare where Marlene worked started getting calls. I know because one of the nurses at the hospital has a sister who works there. Dayton's not that big. Apparently, someone had tipped them off that Marlene had brought the baby to work during closed hours, left him in the office while she ran errands. It wasn't illegal, but it violated their policies. They started reviewing her conduct. I didn't make the call. I didn't have to. People talk. And once they start seeing your name in complaint files, everything you do looks suspicious. Then one night late, around 2:30 a.m., my phone rang. Private number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, it was my mother. You need to stop this. Andrew is going to lose everything. Marlene's barely holding it together. The baby doesn't deserve this. No, sorry. No, I see now. Just blame. That's when I lost it. I didn't call her back. I forwarded the voicemail to my lawyer. But I also started writing a long, detailed email to every single person in my family. I laid it all out, what I did, what I knew, what had happened. I attached copies of receipts, the original announcement, the photos they'd sent me. I made sure there was no confusion. Then I hit send all. Within hours, I was blocked by half of them. The other half said nothing. One had emailed back and said, I always knew Marlene was jealous of you. I'm sorry you had to go through this alone. That message stuck with me. Because I did go through it alone. Every single part. That same week, I got another envelope in the mail. This one was handwritten. No baby photo. Just a short note from Andrew. This has gotten out of hand. I never wanted to hurt you. Please, let's talk. For closure. Closure. As if there was a version of this story where I just shrugged and moved on. I stared at that note for a long time. I thought about meeting him. Not to forgive. To finish this. But I didn't reply. Instead, I mailed it back. Empty. No return address. After I sent that empty envelope back, I thought it would be over. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I got a knock on my apartment door. It was around 7 in the evening. I had just gotten out of the shower and was still in scrubs, my hair dripping wet. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. It was Marlene. I didn't open the door. I just stared. She didn't look good, thin, pale, dark circles under her eyes. Her jacket was half-zipped, and her hands were shaking. She stood there for a minute, then knocked again. Then harder. Please, she said through the door. Just talk to me. I didn't say anything. I'm not here to fight, she said. I'm so tired, okay? I just need to explain. I need to look you in the eye. That part made me angry. Now she wanted honesty? I opened the door a crack. She looked surprised. Then relieved. You've made your point, she said quietly. Andrew's gone. He left last week. Took a duffel and some savings and just disappeared. I haven't heard from him in days. I can't pay rent. The daycare job is gone. People talk, and now no one will hire me. I stayed silent. She looked up at me. Her voice broke. You win, okay? I stood there for a long time. Then I opened the door wider, just enough for her to see my face. No, I said. This wasn't about winning. This was about truth. And now you get to live in it. She looked like I'd slapped her. I started to close the door. She grabbed the frame. He said you wouldn't let it go, that you'd destroy everything. And you did. I didn't flinch. You destroyed it when you slept in my bed. In my clothes. With my husband. She backed up slowly. Her voice dropped. I didn't think you'd fight back. That was the truest thing she ever said. I shut the door. And I locked it. 2 months later, I heard Andrew had been arrested in Tennessee. He'd been pulled over with expired tax. There were open warrants, fraud, and theft. One of the credit cards tied to our old joint account had been used in 4 different states. He'd been using fake names, telling people he was a business coach. His story finally caught up with him. I sent the court files to Marlene. No message. Just the truth, one last time. She moved back in with my mom. I don't know what their life looks like now. I don't care. I still live in my small apartment near the hospital. I work a little less now. I eat better. I sleep more. I even joined a gym. Not to fix anything, just to move forward. But every once in a while, when I walk by that drawer in my room where I keep the envelope with the baby photo, I stop and look. And I remind myself, some people only learn when they lose everything. And sometimes, revenge isn't fire or rage. Sometimes it's silence. It's peace. It's watching them drown in the mess they made while you finally breathe free.